say tell something about the how you can move forward with the such kind of student, or particularly the engineering student. For that purpose, you will find there is a means need of say the huge need of the research activities, research and innovation activities in the engineering branches or in the engineering domain of education. Why I am telling that? Why I am telling that? The reason is that you without engineering, because it is a mode of delivery. You can design, you can develop the mechanism, whatever the researches are done, the basic sciences, or the humanities, or the medical sciences. Ultimately, that must come from the lab to the field, to the deprived people, to the people who are standing in the last of the queue. So the science or the other domain, you can say the medical science even, they cannot have such type of expertise that you have. The design part is of yours, and the design part, whatever the product is there, certainly whether it is from the you can say physics, chemistry, or whatever. So the supply chain mechanism certainly would be developed by the engineers and the scholars who are in the domain of the humanities. So for that purpose, I must underline here that you just inculcate in the mind of the young engineers that they have the good interaction with the humanities as well as other domain of knowledge. Don't confine them only to the engineering branch, because ultimately they are the communicator. You people are the courier. You can carry whatever is produced by the the social sciences, or the basic sciences, or whatever, or medical sciences. So for that purpose, such a habit, such a feeling must be implanted in the mind of the young engineers. And the last but not the least, try to again, I just stress upon, try to organize series of the program for the student, and particularly of that category of student, particularly the student who are deprived of the many things. Means the student who are in the remotest area, say Leh, Ladakh, Kargil. In the same way, the northeast student, in the same way, the student who are in Kalahari, Odisha, Chhattisgarh, if they will be connected, then your purpose will be served. Really, you did for the society, for the student who are really in need of that light. So once again, I just congratulate each and everyone, and hope all the best for you. Stay at home, be very, very active, and be careful while you are moving out. I mean, now the lockdown is under some modification form, so you have to take those things into consideration. Locked means you are not free. You have to take many things on your own to save yourself, your family, your neighbors, your society, and your country. With this, once again, best of luck, each one of you. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir, for your motivational words. We will definitely take care of these things whenever we will plan any such next program. Thank you, sir. Now, I would like to invite.
Thank you. Now you go ahead.
Thank you, sir.
Go ahead.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Sir.
Now, I would like to invite our worthy director, ma'am, Professor Srita Gupta, to enlighten our participants.
Thank you, Dr. Amandeep.
Thank you. Welcome, ma'am.
Thank you, Dr. Amandeep and Dr. Mukesh, for giving me this opportunity. I'm really happy to see that our IT and CSC faculty has taken this great initiative in this hard testing times. So first of all, I congratulate the investigators of this project, Dr. Harish, Dr. Sakshi, Dr. Amandeep, Dr. Mukesh, and many more members for getting this project in the UIT and taking this initiative of organizing this 1 month online program in Python for training our students and the students of the nearby institutes in the latest upcoming technology, Python. As we know, UIT has always come forward to train the students in the upcoming technologies. With this initiative in mind, in the recent years, in every summer vacation, we used to organize a program in Java and the Infosys Foundation program under the Campus Connect so that our students are industry ready. But as we know, recently NASSCOM has identified 6 different thrust areas like artificial intelligence, cybersecurity, data sciences, big data, IoT, after conducting the industry survey. To the objective of the identifying these thrust area is to produce the manpower to meet the requirement of the industry. And to meet these requirements, AICT has started various initiatives like Atal, SWAYAM, and these centers for capacity development and entrepreneurship. And this center sanctioned by MIT is also an initiative in that direction. So objective of this initiative or this center is to produce a self-sustainable youth in the 3 areas: AI, artificial intelligence, big data, and IoT. And backbone of all these technologies, as we know, is Python, because it is providing a lot of support for designing the applications in these areas. So I think this Python online training program will really be very, very useful for the students to start trying their hands in these technologies. And in the near future, the organizers of this course will be organizing many more programs in various areas like data science and IoT. I would say that this pandemic has really opened up new opportunities and new avenues for new learning. Now, every student, even a small child, is aware of the video conferencing platforms like Zoom, WebEx, and many more. But they are also facing the security problems at the same time. So there is a lot of need for security professionals. So I urge the students to take this opportunity, to take this time and to learn the Python and turn in this opportunity into the great learning experience. With these words, I wish a great learning experience to all the participants of this course, and I wish a lot of success to the investigators of this project. With these words, congratulate once again to all the participants and organizers. Thank you very much. And I would like to thank VC sir to spare the time for this inauguration and to motivate our team and the participants. Thank you. Thank you all.
Thank you very much, ma'am, for your motivational words. Now I would like to invite Dr. Harish Kumar to kindly thanks our guest of honors. Harish sir, please. Dr. Harish, please continue. Sir, are you there? Dr. Harish?
When?
Yeah, Mandeep, I'm here.
Yeah. So please thanks our guest of honors.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you, Dr. Mandeep, for giving me this opportunity to thank all the honorable guests. First of all, I would like to thank our Honorable Vice Chancellor, Professor Rajkumar, who, despite his busy schedule, has spared some time to inaugurate and motivate the team and the students for this event. My thanks are also due to our motivating and leading director, Professor Savita Gupta, who is leading this huge institute and encouraging the faculty members and various teams to submit the projects and then providing an environment to work for execution. My thanks are also due to the ministry who sponsored this particular platform and the team who meticulously executed, first of all, the plan to submit the project, then the presentation, then after getting this project in this COVID timings in the lockdown period, immediately switched over to the online mode by using the technology. And my thanks are also due to all the participants who took this opportunity to participate in this particular program. And the students, particularly after learning this particular technology, can participate in numerous activities, numerous kind of opportunities will open up for them. Moreover, the current pandemic has brought the number of jobs for the IT professionals. If you look back at the history, whenever there is a pandemic, then the technology jobs has increased. Like in the recent history, the computer has faced a Y2K problem. People in year 98, 99 were saying that due to Y2K problem, now there will not be any need of the IT professionals in future. But after that, there was a sudden surge of requirement of IT professionals. Then in 2002, people were saying now the web bubble has burst and now the IT professional will not be required. More number of IT professionals will not be required. But again, a surge came and the number of IT professionals were required in the industry. Then ultimately now this pandemic of COVID-19, systems are switching over to the online systems. So I hope that students will exploit this opportunity to learn and participate in the new wave of technology which is emerging out due to the current situation. Thank you all. Thanks are also due to the technical staff who's providing the technical inputs for organizing this event. And my thanks are also to Almighty, to the God, who has provided the strength to all of us to participate and organize in these kind of events. Thank you, Dr. Mandeep.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
Now I request Dr. Puneet to take up the charge and to start our first session.
Thank you, Dr. Aman, and thank you, Dr. Harish, for such nice words. Good morning, respected guests, faculty members, and the participants. So now we are going to start with the first session of our training workshop on Python. Expert for this introductory section is Dr. Ajay Mittal. So Dr. Ajay Mittal is a professor in Department of Computer Science and Engineering, UIT, Punjab University. So he is having 15 years of teaching experience. His field of expertise are image processing and medical devices. So Dr. Mittal is working on many projects and have in his account more than 30 publications in reputed international journals and conferences. So in this session, Dr. Ajay Mittal will introduce you all to Python programming, beginning with its installation using the Jupyter Notebook and then continuing with the other fundamental aspects. Now I request Dr. Ajay Mittal to start the first session of this workshop. Over to Dr. Ajay Mittal.
Thank you, Dr. Puneet. Am I audible and clear?
Yes, sir, you are very much clear, sir. You can start.
So, yeah, can you give me access to, yeah, thank you. So is the screen clear to everyone?
Yes, sir, it is clear.
Okay, fine. Thank you. So good morning all. Today we are going to work with the introduction, and I'll also introduce the data types and data objects to you. But to set the stage, firstly, I'll tell you about few features of Python. So Python is an open source programming language. Open source means that if you have to work with it, there is no requirement of any license, and you can tweak with it. The code is available, you can tweak it and you can customize it. It is general purpose. That means that you can use it for developing applications in different domains. That means you can use it for web development, you can use it for desktop application development, you can use it for development of embedded systems and so on. So it is structured. That means that there is a proper structure that you have to follow if you have to write down the programs in Python. Like there is some indentation which is required. So it is not a free flow language, it is a structured language. It is dynamically typed language, which means that types are associated with the objects at the runtime. It is not like C programming, which is a statically typed programming language. So it is a dynamically typed language. The types are associated at the runtime with the objects. It is interpreted. That means there is a Python interpreter which works and which checks whether the code that you have written is correct or not. It is not a compiler based language. It is not compiled, it is interpreted. It is a multi-paradigm, which means that you can use the functional programming, you can use object-oriented programming. So it is a multi-paradigm programming language. It is portable. That means that the code that you write on one system, you can run it on another system, and it is a high-level programming language. That means it is nearer to the user. User has the convenience to write the programs in this language, and it is not like other languages which are assembly level or which are machine level. So it is a high level, and it is relatively easier to program in Python. So to concretize, so we have Python, which is an open source, general purpose, structured, dynamically typed, interpreted, multi-paradigm, portable, and a high level programming language. So it is very simple and easy to learn, and it is one of the most popular programming language nowadays. As I already said, it is used for web application development, desktop application development, numeric and scientific computing. There are numerous libraries, number of libraries which you can use to develop your programs, and it is used for embedded systems as well. So this is about what we can do with Python, and this is the person who is responsible for conceiving and implementing Python. So he is Guido van Rossum. Guido is his first name and van Rossum is his surname. So he implemented it. He conceived and implemented it 1980s at CWI, a lab at Netherlands. And its first version, which is 0.9.0, which has the features like classes, inheritance, exception handling, and others, it got released in late 80s. Okay, and the other versions like 1.0 got released in 1994, and the versioning, if you see, like the Python 0.9.0 or 1.0, if we have to talk about it, so we talk about the major release and the minor versions of it, major, minor, and macro. So if you encounter a Python version which is written as 1.0.1, so the one is the major, the first one is the major, and the 0 is the minor, and the last one is the micro version of it. So Python 2.0 got released in 2000. Nowadays we are working with Python 3.x versions, means the major release is 3, and I'll tell you how to work with Python 3.8.3, which is the current version, and 3.9 is under development. So in this course, I'll tell you how to work with Python 3.8.3. So not only the versions, we have different implementations of Python as well. So there are number of implementations which are prevailing. The most common are CPython, Jython, IronPython, and PyPy. CPython we will work with in this course. So CPython is the Python implementation which is written in C language, and it is the most commonly used implementation of the Python. So to start with and to install Python, firstly you have to download Python. And I suppose that all of us are working with Windows platform at the moment. So if you have to install on Windows, you have to go to the Python download page with this URL. So after this session, I suggest you to go to this URL, download the Python. So if you go to this URL, you will have the Python implementation for 3.8.3. You can download it. The setup is about 30 MB and you can install it. And once you install it, there are different options that will come along with it, that you have to install idle and you have to add the Python to the environment path. So you check all those and you install it. So it is relatively very easy to install. Just download the setup, click on it, double click on it, run it, and install the Python. So once Python is installed, our next task would be to install the Jupyter Notebook. So Jupyter Notebook is type of environment in which you can run your code and you can write down the text as well. The screen that you are looking at is a Python notebook. So I have created a Python notebook. So in this case, the cells that you see, like the cell which is highlighted, this is another cell which is highlighted. So the cells that you see, they are of different types. Like some of them are code cells, some of them are markdown cells. So the text that we write is markdown cell. So the cell which is having installing Python is a markdown cell. So I have written the text in it. Later you will see that there are few code cells also. So in Jupyter Notebook, you can easily write down something. You can write down the code for the illustration purposes. So Jupyter Notebook you have to install. To install Jupyter Notebook, firstly, there are two ways to do that. One is to download and install Anaconda for this, or the second way is to install it through pip. So installing it through pip is relatively easier. Installing through pip is relatively easier. To do that, firstly you have to install pip, and to install pip there is a file that you need to download from net, and that file is getpip.py. You can install this, you can get this from this URL, which is bootstrap.py.io getpip.py. So after this session, your first task would be to install Python. Second is to get the getpip pipe. You save it in a folder. And then you run that file using the command python getpip.py. So once you do that, the pip will be downloaded and will be installed. So once pip is installed, you can check whether you have got the upgraded version of pip or not by running this command, which is python -m pip install --upgrade.pip. And since you have downloaded pip just now, so most probably you will get the upgraded version of pip. So it will automatically say that it is the most upgraded version. Then your task is to use pip, which is Python package installer, to install Jupyter. So you can use this command for Jupyter installation, python -m pip install Jupyter. So depending upon the network speed, it will download the files in some time and it will install it. So you have to just wait for few minutes for the Jupyter to be installed on your system. And once Jupyter is installed, on the command prompt, you have to give the command Jupyter Notebook. So once you give the command Jupyter Notebook, so this type of page will open up in your Internet Explorer or the default web browser. So this type of page will open up. Then you have to say that you want to create a new Python notebook by clicking on new on the right hand side. So you will say new Python notebook I want to create. New Python notebook you want to create by going on new Python 3. Okay. And once you do that, new Python notebook will get created like this. Like this. This is one which is the blank Python notebook. So since many of you are new to it, I'll again go through the process, what we have to do. So I am again repeating what we have to do for the installation of Python. First of all, you have to download Python from the URL python.org/downloads. If you click on it, you will get this page. Go here, download Python 3.8.3. So once you click on it, you will be able to download the installer, which is about 30 MB in size. So Python 3.8.3.exe, the installer for the Python, will be downloaded on your system depending upon your internet connection speed. It will take few minutes, but it will be downloaded. So go to the folder where it has been downloaded and install Python. So once that has been installed, your second objective is to install pip. Pip is Python package installer. The pip is acronym for Python package installer. So to install pip, you have to get pip.py file, and that you can get from this URL, which is bootstrap.pypar.io getpip.py. So if you click on it, you will get this file downloaded, which is 1.8 MB only. 1.8 MB only. So once you do that, you can run this getpip.py, which is a Python file itself, by making use of command python getpip.py. Once this command is successfully executed, depending upon your internet connection speed, pip will get downloaded and installed on your system. Now you are in position to use this pip to install Jupyter Notebook on your system. To do that, you have to execute these commands: python pip install upgrade and python pip install Jupyter. Once this command is successfully executed, Jupyter will be downloaded and will be installed on your machine. So after this session, you try to install Jupyter. Before the next session, I expect that all of you have Jupyter Notebook and Python installed on your machine, so that we can continue with the exercises. So once Jupyter is installed on your machine, you can execute Jupyter by writing Jupyter Notebook on the command prompt. Like if I run command prompt here, on command prompt, if I write Jupyter Notebook, if I do that, so a Jupyter Notebook like this will open up. This type of page will open up. Okay. Then you have to go to the right side. There is a button which says new. So once you click on it, it says what you want to do. You want to create a notebook or you want to create other files. since we want to create notebook, so I will click on Python 3. So once I click here, it will open up a new notebook, which is saying untitled 1. So this is untitled 1. So in this untitled 1, there is a cell. The notebook consists of cells, various cells. So some of the cells, they are of code type. It is written at the top. And some of the cells, they are of markdown type. If you look at it, the cell is of markdown type. So markdown cell is used to write the textual information. So if you click at the markdown, if you make this cell as markdown, so now you can write this. This is my first session. This is my first session. To run this cell, you have to press Shift and Enter. So once you press Shift Enter, it will be executed. So you will see that this has been executed. So I suggest you to download, install Jupyter and start creating a notebook. So we are going to start with Python now right away. And during this first session, I will tell you what are the various data types and how to use them to create programs. From the very first session, I'll tell you how to create program. So Dr. Puneet, can you ask students whether they are getting clearly and is the speed slow or they need to fine tune? Dr. Puneet, am I audible to you?
Yes, sir.
So can you ask students, do they want to fine tune the speed or is it okay?
Yes, sir. I'll drop a message or
You can just ask any one of them and then we can move ahead.
yes, participants. Is it clear to all the participants? The screen is clear and the voice is audible, or is there any kind of problem with the?
Yes, ma'am, it's okay.
Okay. And one another announcement for the participants that if you people have any queries or any questions regarding the session, you can ask the queries at the end of the session. The sir will provide you the enough time for answering the queries. It's over to sir.
Increase speed.
Pardon?
So please increase speed.
Increase speed.
No, I think that's fine because many of the participants are very new to this topic. So I think speed is fine.
Okay. So Dr. Puneet, you can unmute now. We can move ahead.
Yes, sir. Sure, sir.
You can mute all. Okay. So students, so once with this setup, now what you can do is in a code cell, this is a code cell, you can write the first Python statement, which is print hello readers or print your name, anything. So print is a function which gives the output onto the screen, and print expects the object to be given the value for which you want to print within the circular brackets, which are known as parentheses. So print is a function in Python 3. Remember, it is a function in Python 3, but it is a statement in Python 2. So Python 3 and Python version 2, they are not compatible. They are backward incompatible. So print is a function in Python 3, and functions, as you know, they expect certain inputs, and inputs to function, they are given within circular brackets, which are known as parentheses. So to this print function, the input that I have given is a string, which is written within single quotes, and the string is hello readers. So once I press Shift and Enter, so this code cell, the statement which is given within the code cell will be executed, and you will have hello readers as output. So we have executed a Python statement which is printf function followed by printing of a string. Within the parenthesis we have given a string. So the print function can be used to print values of objects. Like we have printed string, I can also print integer, or I can print floating point number, I can print any object. But in this case, suppose if I want to give a message to a particular reader and I do not want to give message to in journal. So what I need to do is I need to get the name of the reader, suppose. So what I have written in the next code cell here is input. Name is equal to input. Enter the name of the reader /t, and that's it. So in this case, what I have done is input is a function which is used to take input from the user. So input function, since it is a function, it also expects an argument, an input. And as I already told you, inputs are given within circular brackets, which are known as parentheses. So to the input function, I have given the input, enter the name of the reader. And this /t is known as escape sequence, which you will come to know later, but it is just to give a tab space. So I have said you display a message to the user that enter the name of the reader. The reader will give the name, and that name will assign to an identifier or a variable which is called name, right? And then in the next line, I am printing hello, the name which user has entered. To that person I am saying hello, and that's it. So if I run this code cell by pressing shift and enter, it says enter the name of the reader. Now if you see, this string is same as the string that I have given in the input function, and this space after the column and between this blank is space is due to this /t, because I have asked the function that give a tab space after column by writing /t. /t is escape sequence which is used to give the tab space in the input. So enter the name, and suppose I write here my name, which is Ajay Mittal, and I press enter. So once I press enter, Ajay Mittal, which is the input that I have given, is assigned to name. Now name is having Ajay Mittal, and in the next statement I have written hello plus name, and this plus is here used to concatenate strings. So Ajay Mittal is a string which I have entered. It is concatenated with hello and will be printed here. So plus is the operator that you will come to know later on. But for the time being, just remember that if we have to take input, we have to make use of input function. And if we have to print something, we have to make use of print function. This is the only objective of writing these two code cells. So the next thing is that if you have to learn programming language, and if you are new to it, so learning programming language is same as writing essay in your natural language. Firstly, you must know how you have to create words from letters. So if you have to write essay in English, you must know that there are letters in English A, B, C, D till Z. Then you must know how to create words. If you have to write apple, how to use A, P, P, L, E to create words in the language. Once you are able to create words, you must know how to use words to form sentence. So you have to make use of grammar and words to form sentences. Once you know how to use sentences, you must know how to create paragraphs. And once you start creating paragraphs, you can form multiple paragraphs to write down an essay. So our flow is also like this. I will tell you how you have to create words, how you have to create sentences, how you have to create paragraphs, and how you have to use those paragraphs to create an essay. So in your programming language, creating words means creating identifiers. Creating words means creating identifiers. From the letters, letters are the allowable characters in our character set. Sentences means how to form expressions. How to form expressions. And statements. And statements. So paragraph means how to write functions. And once you have created the paragraphs, you will be able to create programs. Once you start creating functions, you can write down many functions which interact with each other for a program. So you will be able to create programs. So our first objective is to start creating identifiers, which are just names like words in our natural language. So if you have to create identifiers, you must know what are the characters that you can use to create identifiers. So you must know what is the character set which is allowed. So once we talk about character set, we talk about two type of sets, character sets. What are the characters which are available to me for writing my code, for writing my program? And what are the characters which I can see in the output? So set of the characters that you can use to write program is known as source character set. So set of the programs which you can write program with is known as source character set. And set of the characters which are available to you at the runtime is known as runtime character set or execution character set. So if I have to learn what type of characters are available to me to write identifier, I am basically concerned with source character set. I am concerned with source character set at the time being. So the character sets which are available in Python to create identifiers and other things, they are ASCII character set, as you know, like English letters, digit, punctuation marks, special characters. Additionally, Python also allow you Unicode character set. Means you can also use Unicode characters, which can be your Devanagari script, which can be your Gurmukhi script, which can be any script, to form identifiers or to form names. The only thing is that if you are using Unicode, you have to write that what type of encoding I am using. Just for example, look at this code cell which is given here. I have created name in Devanagari script using Unicode character, Naam, Gotra. I have written the name is Ajay, but that is written in Hindi now. Gotra, that is Mittal, but that is written in Hindi now. So I am again making use of print function of Python to print Naam plus Gotra, which is equivalent to saying name plus surname, but the names that have been written in other script. Okay, so you cannot only use English characters, but you can also use Unicode characters, which contains about 11 lakh of characters. Like your ASCII can have 256. So Unicode can have 11 lakh 14,000 and that much number of characters. So if I execute it, and if I run this cell, you will see that output is Ajay Mittal. Output is Ajay Mittal. So the Python is able to run the script which consists of Unicode characters. So you are not bounded by your English, although that is the commonly used set, ASCII set, but you can also use Unicode. So in the beginning of the course, we will use only ASCII character set, which consists of letters, which can be uppercase letter like A, B, C cap in caps, or which can be lowercase letters, which can be small a, small b, small c, and so on. Digits will be allowed. You can have 0, 1 to 9. Special characters like $sign, ampersand sign, circular bracket, square bracket, less than sign, greater than sign, and so on, that will be allowed. And there are few white space characters, the white spaces which you are not able to see, anything is not there, and they are either blank spaces, tab spaces, new line, carriage return, form feed. So this is the basic ASCII character set with the help of which I will tell you today how to write Python statements, how to write Python program. So the first thing that you have to learn is what is available to me with the help of which I can write Python program. So the characters that are available to you for writing Python program in ASCII set is these things. You are not limited by ASCII only. You can also use Unicode characters. If you are going to use Unicode characters, which I will tell you later on how to use it, the only thing that you have to write is you have to tell to Python that I am going to use Unicode encoding by writing a coding and specifying the coding at the top. So let's progress. If you know what is the characters which are available to you, now I am going to tell you how to create words using these available characters. And the words in our programming language, they are known as identifiers. So identifier refers to name of a variable, function, class, or a module. Okay, so variable is, identifier is name of a variable, function, class, or module. So to write down identifier name, there are certain rules that you have to follow. And the first rule that you have to follow is that identifier names can have letters, digits, or underscores. Except these, you cannot use anything from the available character set to write down identifier name. Like, you will not be able to use special characters except underscore. So if you say, can I write down an identifier name having ampersand? I will say no, you cannot. Identifier name can have only letters, digits, and only one special character that is known as underscore. You cannot have any other special character. You cannot have any blank space in identifier name. This is rule number 1. Second rule is the first character of the identifier name must be a letter or an underscore. It cannot be a digit. So if you start saying, can I create an identifier name 123 ABC? So I will say no, because the starting letter, which is 1, is a digit. It is not a letter. So the first character must be a letter. It should not be a digit. It can be a letter or it can be an underscore. No special character except underscore, blank spaces, and comma are allowed in identifier name. Keywords and reserved words, which are special type of identifiers with predefined meaning. You should not make identifier names which are same as keywords. If you start saying 4 is an identifier name, I would say 4 is a keyword, which is a reserved identifier for the purpose of programming language use. You should not use it. Programming language will use it in a predefined way. And the length of the identifier in Python is unrestricted. It can be of any length, but we suggest you make meaningful identifiers. So the following identifiers are valid in Python. If you see, student is valid. Student in starting with first as uppercase letter is valid. Student underscore 1 is valid. Underscore I said is allowed. Digits are allowed, but digit should not be the first character. Student 1 is valid. Underscore student 1 is valid. Underscore student 1 underscore is valid. Underscore student underscore 1 underscore is valid. All these are valid identifiers because these are formed by using the rules that we have discussed. Another important thing that you must remember is that Python is a case sensitive language, which means that it distinguishes between lowercase and uppercase. So if you start asking me that student, the first identifier, and student with S in capital, are they the same? So I will say no, they are not, because Python is case sensitive language. This S and this S, they are in different cases, so Python treat them separately. So Python is case sensitive. You must remember that if it has to be written in a lowercase, then it has to be in lowercase. If it has to be in uppercase, then it has to be in uppercase. You should not mix and match with both type of cases. The following identifiers, they are not valid. One student, I hope you know why it is not valid, because it is starting with digit, and identifier should not start with digit. Student 1, I hope you know why it is not valid, because in student 1 blank space is there, and in identifier blank spaces are not allowed. Student comma 1, why it is not valid? Because comma is coming and comma is not allowed. Similarly, student ampersand 1 is not valid because ampersand is special character. Finally is not a valid identifier name because finally is keyword in Python, so you cannot use it as an identifier name. So this is all about identifiers. These are the names which you are going to use in your program. Then we have already discussed that few names are known as keywords, predefined identifiers. So in Python, there are about 35 keywords which are available in Python 3.8. In earlier version of Python, there were fewer keywords. 2 keywords have been recently added in the Python version. So the number of keywords in the Python version varies. In Python 3.6, there were different. In Python 3.8, there are different. So time to time, when the development is in progress, time to time, keywords have been added. So at present in Python 3.8.3, there are 35 keywords. So if you want to check, if you want to see what are the keywords which are available in my Python version, so what you have to give is you have to give help, and within the parenthesis of that you have to write keywords as a string. So if I execute this cell, you will see that here is a list of Python keywords, and these keywords are about 35 keywords in Python 3.8. If you have earlier version of Python installed, and if you give this command, you will get fewer number of keywords. So the first thing that you must remember is Python keywords, they have been different in different versions. Few have been recently added to it. And at present in Python 3.8.3, there are 35 keywords. Okay. So if you know what are identifiers, what are keywords? Keywords are those identifiers which you cannot use in for your purpose. They are available, but they have predefined meaning associated with them. So if I talk about false, false signifies a value which is a Boolean value 0. You cannot say that false is equal to ABCD. You cannot do that, and you cannot do that. Okay, because false is not identifier, it is a keyword, it is a reserved word. So the next thing that you know, if you know what are identifiers and keywords, what are data objects and what are variables. Okay, so if you know what are identifiers and keywords, you must know what are data objects and what are identifiers. So a data object basically refer to a memory location that stores data value. So if in my memory I have a value, say 10, that 10 becomes my data object. Now I can make that 10 referred to by an identifier, or in other words, what I can do is I can make an identifier refer to that value 10. Okay, so identifiers can refer to values in the memory. The values which are there in the memory, they are known as data objects. And to make that identifier refer to that variable, what we have to do is we have to make use of assignment statement. Okay, like a is equal to 1. So what I have written is assignment statement. So this is an assignment statement. This is an assignment statement to a, which is valid identifier name. Now by this time you must know that a is valid identifier name, because it is consisting of one letter and it starts with a letter. All the rules which we have discussed for identifier name, they are there. So a is valid identifier name. To a I have assigned 1. So once I do that, in memory value 1 will come, that will become my data object, and a start refers to that data object. So you can look at the figure which is given below. Now in my memory I have 1 and a is a label which is associated with 1. And since it is in memory, it has certain address associated with it. So 18629511136 is sort of an address. And because data objects are randomly allocated, so different time when I run it, you will get different address. Okay, so a comes in memory, 1 comes in the memory, a is associated with it, 1.1 comes in the memory and b is associated with it. So if I run it, press shift enter, so my a, which is 1.1, 1, and b, which refers to 1.1, comes in the memory, right? Now in Python we need not declare like we do in C. So this is a dynamically typed language. The names, they are associated with data objects. We need not declare the type of the identifier before its use. So we need not write any declaration statement. Identifier name can be assigned a value just by making use of assignment statement. Another important points about these data objects are, unlike in statically typed programming languages like C and Java, in Python it is possible for a data object to have more than one variable associated with it. For example, if I write a is equal to 1, so 1 will come in memory, a is the label given to it. When I write b is equal to a, b is equal to a, so 1 is in the memory, a is the label given to it, b is also pasted there. So 1, which is the data object, is now being referred to by two labels, two identifiers, which are a and b. So this concept is different from the concept in C language or other statically typed languages. In C, if you would have done the same thing, you will have two values of a, one being referred by a and one being referred by b. You will have two different values of one being referred by a, one with referred by b. But in Python, you will have this type of notion which comes in the memory. This is very important. You must remember that what is going on beneath the scene. So this type of execution is happening. So once you write a is equal to 1, b is equal to a, both a and b refers to the same data object. While in C and Java, if you do the same thing, they refers to two different data objects. The second thing that is very important is every data object has an identity. Which means the address. Every data object has an identity, which is the address where it is in the memory. a data type and a value. So data object has three things. What is the identity? What is the type? What is the value? Okay. And the type and the identity of the data object you can check. So if you have to check identity of A, you have to make use of, I execute this code cell. You have to write ID, which is a function for checking identity, and within that you have to write A. So identity of A, if you see, if I execute ID A, I will get 1856, and this is the identity. When I run for B, if I do that, I will get this identity. Now you compare both of them. Both of them are the same. So this means that we have one data object. Both A and B are referring to the same data object. So identity of A, identity of B is the same, is the identity of the data object that they are referring to. So the next thing that you must remember, that if there is a data object is in the memory, and if you want to check where it is in the memory, you can refer to its identity by making use of identity function ID. Within the parentheses, you give the input to the function, the name of the object. So ID A means check the identity of A, where it is in the memory, where it refers to. What is the data object it refers to, where it is located. Semi ID B, what is the identity of B? Similarly, that I told you, data object also have type. So what is type of A? If I run it, it says int. What is type of B? It is int. Okay. What is value of A? I just refer to the name A and it will tell me what is the value of A. It says 1. What is value of B? It is 1, because both A and B, which are identifiers, they are just labels to the data object 1. They are referring to the same thing. Now you must remember very important thing, that identity and type of data object cannot change after its creation. If you have created a data object, you cannot change its identity, you cannot change its type. However, value of data object, some of the data objects can be changed. And the value of data objects that can be changed, those data objects whose value can be changed, they are known as mutable. Very, very important concept in Python. You must have very clear understanding about it, is the mutability. So those data objects whose value can change are known as mutable objects, and those data objects whose value cannot change are known as immutable data objects. So the next thing that I have introduced to you is data objects, whether they are mutable or immutable. So the data objects whose value can change are known as mutable, and those data objects whose value cannot change are known as immutable. Now, how can I find whether the data object that I have created, like 1 is the data object that I have created, and I have associated labels A and B with it. How can I find whether 1 is mutable or not? So whether an object is mutable or not depends upon its data type that we are going to see just now. So the type of the data object 1 is int, and int is immutable data type. So the data object 1, which is of type integer, is immutable. So the mutability of the data object, whether it is mutable, whether it is allowed to change its value, or whether it is immutable, that means whether it is not allowed to change its value, depends upon its data type. So the data types such as boolean, int, float, tuple, range, they are immutable. You cannot change the value of data objects of these types. So if you have created data object of integer, you cannot change its value. If you have created data object of type tuple, you start changing its value, it is not allowed. While there are certain data types you can change the value of their objects, they are known as immutable, they are known as mutable. So that is list, set, and dictionary. List, set, and dictionary. So boolean, integer, float, tuple, range, which are the data types which are available in Python, they are immutable. You cannot change the value of objects of these types. While list, set, dictionary, they are mutable. If you have created data objects of list type or set type or dictionary type, you can change the value of objects of these types. So I want to illustrate a concept to you about the mutability and immutability. So if I write a is equal to 1, a is equal to 1, can you know, do you know what I have done? What I have done, if I have written a is equal to 1, so what I have done, in my memory, I have created data object 1, and that data object comes at 18560961176. Okay. Okay. So I have associated label a with it. I have associated label a with it. So once I have written a is equal to 1, identity of this thing happens. Once I have written a is equal to 10, a is equal to 10, and ID a. So what will happen if I do that? If I run it, so I get this. So what do you infer? I told you data type integer is immutable. That means I cannot change the value of this object. But once you have started writing a is equal to 10, so what does that mean? You have not changed the value of a here. You have not done 10 here. That is not allowed, because this is of integer type. It cannot change its value. It is immutable. So Python creates another object, put 10 in it, and instead of a referring here, Python makes a refer here. Now a will refer to 10, but that 10 is a different data object. That is not same as 1. And how can I check that? I will check what is the identity. What is the identity of it? Now if you say identity of this is 320, something at the beginning and at the end 320. So previously it was 176, now it is 320. So it is not the same a. It is not the same data object. A referring to same data object. A has now started referring to a different data object, which is 10. Okay. So let me give a pause, and Dr. Puneet, am I audible to you? Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Dr. Puneet, can you ask students if they are having any problem, or do we need to fine tune anything? Because I think that few of them are leaving.
Yeah.
Can you ask if there is? Yeah.
Participants, if anyone wants to ask anything or any query, you can ask now.
Can they understand what I am saying, or is there any issue in understanding? Firstly, Dr. Puneet, let's ask that. Can they understand it?
So participants, you people are understanding what Dr. Ajay Mittal is telling you all, and
They
what
can
he
give-
is teaching.
Dr. Puneet, messages on chat are coming, if you can refer to.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Yes
Everyone
is
is
coming, I think.
yeah, yeah. So I
So
think we can pause this
yeah,
session here.
no. What is the timing
Hello?
for the session? Yes, yes.
Yes,
Hello.
who's there?
I
Yes.
would
Sir, once
like.
we have initialized 8 to 10, then
Okay, Dr. Puneet,
can we
you give
access the
access?
previous day?
Please speak again.
Okay, I got the query. Dr. Puneet.
Once we
So this, I got the query.
Okay.
So one of the student is asking that A is 10. So A is 1 here. So A is 1 here. And this refers to A. Now I have done A is equal to 10. So A starts referring to 10 here and it's not there. So he is asking, can I refer to previous A? Instead, I will like to correct him. He wants to say, can I refer to this data object 1 in some way? You are not referring to A. A is just a label. It is an identifier which helps you in accessing the data objects. Our objective is to access the data objects, the values which are there in the memory. And to access data objects, we are making use of identifiers. So A, which is an identifier, was previously referring to 1. So we were accessing this 1 through A. Now A has started referring to 10 and it has ceased, no longer refers to 1. So the better thing that he should ask is, can I refer to this 1 in some way? And the answer to this query is yes. If my B also refers to this data object 1, I can refer to this 1 via B. But suppose in this scenario, if none of the identifier refers to 1, if no identifier starts referring to 1, then what Python does is, to Python it appears that 1 is no longer required and Python does the garbage collection. It removes it from the memory. So I repeat, very important concept. That concept is that data objects are there in memory. Data objects are referred to by identifiers. Many identifiers can refer to one data object. Identifier keep on changing. They start refer to different data objects. If at a particular time no identifier or no label refers to a data object, the reference count of that data object reduces to 0. When reference count of a data object reduces to 0, Python does the garbage collection. All those data objects which have reference count 0, in other words, which means that there is no identifier referring to that data object, is garbage collected, removed from the memory. So you cannot refer to it if none of the identifier is referring to it. Am I clear in my answering the person who has asked it? Have you got it? I hope I am clear to everyone. Okay. Okay, thank you. Yeah. Any other student having any query? Any
I
other
think sir
student
has
having
given
any?
a very good explanation to your query. Anyone else want to ask anything?
Ma'am.
Okay.
No,
So
ma'am.
let's. Okay.
Okay,
Good. So
fine,
let's
good.
move ahead. Let's
No,
move
ma'am.
ahead. So let's move ahead. So what we have seen in this illustration is that 1 is the data object, A refers to it. When you assign 10 to A, so because integer is immutable type, so the value of 10 in this box cannot change. So in this box, you cannot make it 10. This concept is different from the concept that you might have learned in C. You cannot make 10 here. That is not allowed. So Python creates another object 10, and you do not know in the beginning, at the front end, you are not knowing what is going behind the scene. So Python now starts referring to this 10 by label A. So to you, it appears that the value of A has changed. But actually the concept is the value of A has not changed. A has now started referring to different data object, and that you can verify by checking its identity. So if you see, identity is now 424, previously it was 136. And in the next figure here, what I have illustrated is, because no label is associated with this container now, so it is garbage collected. So this is deleted from the memory, because ultimately memory is to be saved. So Python does the garbage collection and it removes this. Okay. So int in nutshell is immutable type. You cannot change its value. Let's look at what is mutable data objects. So if you have heard, I just briefed, list is a mutable data type in C. So here I have created a list of two objects, two elements 1 and 3, and I have assigned it to A. Okay, so list is mutable type. So here if I execute it, so it says that 13 is the list, 13 is A, it is a list, and it is having identity this. Okay, now I have told you that list is mutable type. That means I am able to change the value of data object. I am able to do that. So what I have done is I have started referring to A is equal to 5, 6. Okay, and I have started printing A and its identity now. So look at it, 5, 6. But what you observe here is that address has also changed. Address has also changed. So you might get confused that we know that list is mutable type. So here I have list, which is 13, and here is the name A associated with it. Identity is say 088. But when you started assigning it 5, 6, it has changed to a different identity. So it has 13 and it is 999-2. A has started referring to here. Now you may argue that you told that list is mutable type. Why we have not been able to change the value of the data object in place? This is because I have done it in a wrong way. I have done it in a wrong way. The correct way to do this is write down that the first object of the A is 10, the second of A is 20. If I do it in this way, so what I'm doing is I am changing this to 10 and this to 20. So if I do it now and if I run it, look at it, the value of A now has changed to 10, 20, but the identity has remained the same. Look at it. Look at the previous execution, 9992. Look at the next execution, 9992. So what we have concretized now, that list is mutable type. If you do in a correct way, you will be able to change the value of data object of list type in place. That means without changing the memory location, you will be able to do that. Like here we have done it. Okay, so this is about data objects. This is about data objects. Next we will discuss about data types, but I think that we have to take a break, and we will resume from this data types in the next session. Dr. Puneet, what is the time for the next session?
Sir, ideally it was to be started from 12:30, but we can take half an hour break and we can start by 12:45.
That's good. Okay.
Yeah. So all the participants are requested to please rejoin by 12:45. We will
Dr. Puneet,
start the next session.
just a minute, Dr. Puneet, we can give them 10 minutes more if
Okay.
they can do installations also. So if they
Yes,
have
yes,
any
sir.
query, we can take up in the next session. So we can give them 15 minutes more. We can join at 1, but
Okay.
before that they should able to do their Python installation and Jupyter Notebook installation, if that is suitable to all.
Yeah, okay. So all the participants are required to install the Python as sir has instructed you all, and we can then join back by 1, and by 1 you all are required to install the Python on your system, so that if there are any queries regarding the installation of the Python, you can ask the sir in the next session. So is it okay with all?
Yeah, Dr. Puneet, I think, do we need to share the process for, Dr. Ajay has explained very well the installation steps, but do we need to share that again, the path and all that? Dr.
If
Ajay?
that needs to be, if that needs to be done, we can share this.
We can
upload
keep
it
it on
somewhere.
Yeah.
We can keep it on the screen, or we can share it, or we can put it somewhere.
Chat. You can give the link in the chat, or you can keep this window open.
Okay,
Yeah.
I can do that. If one is installation Python, I have given that in the chat. If everyone can see that.
So everyone has got the links? No.
No. So I'll
No.
I'll do that. I think that it has gone to one of them.
Yeah, only one of them, I think so.
This is going to Ashwani Rathi only.
Okay, no problem. We can share this on the WhatsApp group also.
Now I am sending to everyone. Just hold on.
Okay.
Just hold on. Have they got that?
Yeah, it has gone to everyone. So,
Okay.
so participants can now install the Python, and we can rejoin by 1. And if there are any queries, you can ask in the next session to the sir. So, any other query from the participants? Or we can leave the session now, I think.
I have a query.
Yes.
Sir, I would like to ask that Python 2.7 is already installed in my computer. So
Okay.
should I uninstall it and then install Python 3, or keep the both?
You can keep both, but I suggest you uninstall it first. Otherwise, there is no restriction. You can keep both. If some of your code is running in 2.7 and you have other libraries installed for 2.7, you can keep both. But Python 2 and Python 3, they are not compatible. So whatever we are doing, we are going to do for Python 3. So if you start trying something in Python 2, you may face incompatibility issue. So I suggest you install Python 3 afresh, either by uninstalling Python 2.7 or by keeping it. That is your choice.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Hello, sir.
Anyone else?
Sir, students are
Yes.
messaging that some errors are there.
Students are getting some
Errors. They are dropping messages in
errors
chat
in
box.
Errors.
Errors are there. They are
Okay.
just, ma'am, error is there, error issue. I think so. Error in links.
Yeah, I think error is in the link.
Which one? Downloads or BootPy?
They are just dropping the message.
No, which one?
Can
I
anyone
executed.
from the participant side tell what is the error?
No, Dr. Puneet, both the links were running because I executed online only. Like this one is opening, if you see. And if you see the second one also, so the GetPy starts downloaded. If you see at the bottom of my page, so it is downloading it. So I think that all of these, they are working and there is no such issue. They have to check the connections and all those things. Otherwise they are running. There is no error in the link.
Okay, participants, you can try and you can check your network connectivity and then you can try to install it.
Otherwise we can also share the installer and the file if they want. If some of them are not able to do that by 1 o'clock, after 1 o'clock we will do that by Google Drive. We can share it on Google Drive and they can download it from there.
Okay, sir. Okay. So I think
Fine.
fine,
let's
sir. So
join
I
back
think
at let's join back at 1.
yeah. Okay. So all